All right, we should be live. We should be live. Hold on. All right, 93. Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. So I'm currently in the library. So I'm not sure how well the actual Wi-Fi will actually work right now. So I can't promise the most intent quality, right? Because who knows? Maybe it'll come out good, maybe not. But we'll give it a shot. 93 Violet, 93. Now, what I wanted to do here is, like I showed y'all this imagery before, maybe in like 2018, right? You know, with the goddess with all of the sections of history, right? In the central library. So what I'm gonna do, hey, what's up, Callie? Oh shit, you got Callie in the building, what's up with you? What I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna show the imagery again, just more close up so y'all can see exactly, basically my thoughts. So instead of me just speaking my thoughts, I wanna actually show forth the energy, you know, for people who may not have seen this before. Because I know I was coming to the library for years and I didn't even know this stuff existed. Like you got to go all the way to the top floor. Nobody talks about it. It's like, but it's just here. It's like you just got to know what's up. So even if you look at the ceilings, right? Like this is like almost 100 years old. I believe this library was built in like the 20s or the 30s. So this library is like almost 100 years old, as you see. All right. Let me show you the other ceiling before I show you the main thing, right? So let me flip over the camera so y'all can see. Got the Christmas tree. All right. All right. So as you see with the ceilings, you see the colors look kind of faded, you know, because that stuff been up there for who the fuck knows how long again, probably almost 100 years at this point, right? But I'm just showing you some imagery, right? Like I said, I was coming to this library for years and I never was on this floor because this library has like 5 or 6 different levels, right? So I will always be going down and like into the basement and stuff because that's like where all the occult books are and that's where I was spending a lot of my, like the third floor somewhere, like Neville Goddard. But let me show you what's in front of me. This is the point that I'm making here. Let me flip the camera so y'all can see. So we see here, we see that this is Greek. So if you've ever been to Los Angeles, you know that the Greek influence is the heaviest influence in the city in terms of like the architecture and basically things that were built again like 100 years ago at this point. So this was the type of time that they were on. Let me show you the other one. So obviously the average person has no idea what this says because it's written in Greek. But the keys are there. For those who can crack the code, the keys are there. But let me show you the goddess. This is what I want to show you right here. So let me get close up. I want to get close up so y'all can see exactly what's going on here. So as we see, it says 1934, right? Very, very old. Let me let you see this. See if I can zoom in. It's kind of blurry. Hold on. So if you see here, she has all of the phases of civilization. And you see the last phase is the pyramids. So you see the three pyramids, it's talking about the pyramids at the Giza plateau, right? So you see like those buildings right there. That's like the Greek history. Again, I know it's kind of blurry. Let's see if I can zoom out. And we see that when we look at that, we know that's from Samaria. So you got the Egyptian energy, you got the Sumerian energy, you got the Greek energy. Let me zoom out. Up here, you got the Hindu culture is up there. It looks like a dance in Shiva, right? So you see she has all of the civilizations going down the middle of her chest, and then the last one is the three pyramids. Now there's a reason for that, right? Why did it stop at the pyramids? And we can say, all that occurred like 5 to 15,000 years ago. So this is not necessarily talking about recent history. So why did they end it there? Turn the camera around. The reason it ended with the pyramids as the last section, right, is because that's what they gave honorance to. That's what they honored. So even though the energy is heavily influenced by the Greek language, you can say, and the Greek culture, it is also influenced by the Egyptian. Let me show you something else. I want to show you the original torch of the Central Library, right? So this is the original torch. Let me see if I can find it. Again, they got this stuff hidden and tucked off and shit. I think it's actually over here. All right, hold on. Yeah, it's over here. So this is the original torch that was originally at the top of the building. It's a different torch up there now, but this is the original, basically going back to the 30s, right? So this was created in the 30s. And you see it's more Greek here. What's up, Ty? Peace, peace. It's more Greek. And you also see the serpent at the bottom. As you see, that's a serpent. So there's a serpent at the base of this torch. So I'm just giving you an idea of the type of energy that's prominent in this particular location that we call Los Angeles or the City of Angels. The reason why you can say the energy was based on the angelic realm, because if we're talking about the City of Angels, we're basically talking about, the angelic planes. Then that takes us into Greek mythology, again, which is why it's heavily, they use the Greek language. So I'm not even going to really say it's actually the culture, right? It's actually just the Greek language. So the same way we use the Hebrew language with the tarot, with the 22 major arcana cards, so the same way we utilize the Hebrew alphabet in occultism or Kabbalah, they utilize the Greek in the same fashion, right? So that's why when I showed you those two sphinx, they had the Greek there, because it's only for certain people to know what that means. You know, the average person is not going to look up what that means. The average person is not going to look up what this means, right? The average person is just walking past this stuff, and it doesn't register. It looks nice, it's good to view, but they don't really have a comprehension of what's being shown to them because they don't understand the language. Because obviously the people never really spoke Greek. Of course, you have people that speak Greek or parts of Greek, right? Like the Armenian people, I believe. I believe part of their language has like Greek words, right? The Armenian people, right? So that energy is, heavily dominant here, of course. And that's the thing about LA, is like everybody has their certain sections, right? Depending on where you are, like Glendale versus like South Central versus Gardena. Like LA is a very, very big place. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm not just talking about, just the downtown in the city, just the greater Los Angeles area as a whole is huge, right? So, of course, they like to promote, the gang warfare. They like to promote the crime. And they even like to promote, like the Hollywood lifestyle and all that. But we don't really get this. We don't really get the occultism in this pure form. That's why we have to go to a fucking library and see this for ourselves. I would have never known none of this existed. Again, I used to live in LA, and I would be at this library very often. It wasn't until I moved from LA and I came back here by accident that I even knew this stuff was even here. Again, this is not promoted. People don't even know, like I did. I was going here for literally years and never seen this stuff. So when I finally seen it, again, about 2018, when I originally made these videos and I was showing forth these things, that gave me a new perspective. Because I understood that, again, I'm the one that's speaking about, you have to know the spirit of your city, right? You have to know what rules over your city. You have to understand the energy and the currency of your city so that you can understand how to integrate. What would be the best way for you to adapt and integrate with this particular energy, which changes from city to city, from state to state. So since we're all the way over here on the West Coast, we're all the way over here in Satan's world, right? Like we literally have a portal to hell in Devil's Gate, right? And I showed y'all that as well. I don't know if I uploaded. I actually didn't upload it, but I think I may have in the past. But it's literally a portal to hell. And we know that's going back to the history of Aleister Crowley. That's going back to the history of JPL or Jack Parkinson's. That's going into the history of the OTO. That's going into the history of Pasadena, right? All of these things I knew nothing about when I actually lived here. I began to learn these things after I left. I had to become a magician first, which is why I moved to Vegas, right? I moved to Vegas to become a magician so that I could comprehend what was literally staring me in my face the whole time. Meaning I see why now, why I like coming to this particular library. Again, not even knowing that this stuff was here, but just the energy itself, I was drawn to it. So even though me just, utilizing the Egyptian currency or the Egyptian name or the Kemetic name, you see, when we looked at the goddess, you got the pyramids right on the goddess. And there's a reason why it's a goddess and not a god. See, this one, like that, it shows a lot without saying much of anything. Because, most people are heavily religious. Most people believe in one God. So the fact that you see a female deity up there, and she is preserving all of the ancient cultures, and she has two guardians, one on her left-hand side, one on her right-hand side. That means she has rank. Like, this is a supreme deity, as we may call the goddess, as we may call Sophia, as we may call the Queen of Heaven. All of those titles match. And again, it was a reason why they chose a woman to embody that energy, because they could have easily put Jesus up there. They could have easily put some type of religious figure, Moses, Abraham. They could have easily did that. But again, this was done back in the 30s, almost 100 years ago, like 90 years ago at this point. So that means 90 years ago, they was tapping into the goddess. They was tapping into the ancient civilizations. They literally documented it. I showed y'all, they have every civilization, all of the great civilizations is between her chest, going all the way down the body. Like, that's fully symbolic. And you see she's wearing, the dress or the veil. So you know that she is a priestess. So that's why I say this is a supreme deity, because she is the priestess. Right? All we hear about is patriarchy. This is my point. But this is the type of time that they are on now. But when we go back and do the history, we realize that, they actually knew. They knew better. They knew better, and they preserved it. And that's the most important thing. So not only did they know better, so that lets you know right there that these people were not religious. These people didn't necessarily, they were not Christians, because you're not going to find Christ in here probably at all. But what you will find, again, is this torch. What you will find is that serpent. What you will find is a goddess. What you will find is those sphinx. What you will find is the Greek language or the Greek alphabet. So if they was on this type of time 100 years ago, 90 plus years ago, basically, and we see what we're doing now, where, again, people are just walking past and stuff and don't have no idea what none of this stuff means. It just looks nice to them. But it still has an effect on your consciousness, even if you don't comprehend what you're viewing. So every time somebody looks at that goddess and they see all of those great civilizations, that affects your psyche, that affects your mind in a way that maybe they don't comprehend. But this is the exact same thing we do when we tap into our ancestors, or when we tap into our higher self, whatever you would like to call it. It comes down to that serpentine force. And again, that's why the serpent is right there. That's letting you know that the serpent is powering your torch. The torch is just a symbol of truth. And if we use our minds, most of the time when we see the torch, it is being held by the goddess. Especially if you go to New York and you look at the Statue of Liberty. She holds a torch in her hand. So whenever we see the torch, it actually, as well, okay, this represents feminine energy. Well, Kundalini is feminine energy. Kundalini is mostly feminine. That's why we consider it spiritual. What's up, Exodus? Truth and light. So I'm just showing y'all verification, right? Because I know I do a lot of talking. I know I run my mouth a lot, but I wanted to definitely give you some verification, of this is what really triggered my mind to think in the way I think now. This is what triggered the occultism. Again, I can go down into the third floor and find all type of occultic books. Books that were not in other libraries. What's up, Keenan? 93. Because when I lived here, I literally went to probably every library that I can go to because I wanted to know what books they had, especially when it comes to occultism. And what I realized is no other library has the books that this central library has. When I go into those dungeons, these books are not found nowhere else. Again, I didn't necessarily know that until I was going to other places. And I'm like, they don't even have the same books. Even when I went to libraries in Las Vegas, even when I went to libraries in New York. Because, wherever I go, I'm always checking out the libraries. I guess that's just my Libra attribute, right? That's just a librarian, right? My Vedic sign. So I'm always, checking out the literature. But then I come to the realization that the literature isn't there. It's only here. Because a lot of those books are original and they're old. Meaning here they have books that's probably over 100 years old, preserved. You're not just going to find that haphazardly. So there's many occulted books that's just preserved here, that's been here because of the type of time that the people were on. That's just the whole point that I'm making. The fact that I can find books here that I can't find anywhere else just further proves the type of time that these people were on. These architects, these builders, these masons. All of the things that we were supposed to have some type of fear of, right? The Illuminati, right? We're supposed to fear these people, because they have such a strong grip on the world because they understand how the mind works, and they put it into symbolic form. Because that's all the occult is. It's just being able to comprehend things via symbolism. Can a symbol tell you more than words can? And the answer is, with the proper symbol, it surely can. Hence, when you look at this symbol, this is conveying more than words here. You can say that's conveying a universal truth that does not change. And these are the type of secrets that are preserved. They don't preserve the secrets that change every year, every month, every decade. They do their best, or they did their best, to preserve the things that don't change. That's why you saw the goddess with all of the civilizations, meaning that history will not change. That history is set in stone. And what it's saying is she was always there. That's what it's really saying. You say not God, but the goddess, right? So esoteric 47. That's what it's conveying to you, that the goddess was always there. That's why you don't see a god there. That's why you don't see a masculine energy there. The masculine is the actual guardians. It's the masculine guarding the feminine, not the other way around. Because the goddess has always been there, and she is the one that is preserving the secrets. The secrets are preserved through the goddess, through her being a priestess. So that goes into the energy, if we take it back to the tarot, that goes into the energy of the high priestess or the priestess, which take you directly into the moon energy. And we know when you're dealing with lunar energy, that takes you directly to the feminine currency in its most pure form, which is what Kundalini is. The purest form, you could say, of the feminine currency is the Kundalini, because through our Kundalini are we able to recalibrate the entirety of our DNA, which is the whole point of activating it, because you activate it to recalibrate yourself, to take yourself back to 0 point. That is done through the feminine principle. And you see, this was greatly understood. And that's why they preserved it the way that they did. For those who had the proper eyes to see and the proper ears to hear, they will immediately catch on. While everybody else, just, takes pictures and go on about their business. But it symbolizes a trigger for those who have recalibrated their DNA. You're going to see things like this, and it's going to make you ponder. Like, okay, what could this possibly mean? What could these Greek words mean? Because you're already activated. Now you want to ponder, okay, what universal truth is this trying to convey? Because this stuff is everywhere. You can find this stuff in every city. It just is not necessarily obvious. Like you see, I had to come into a library and go, I'm on the fucking, the highest floor you can fucking be on to even see this stuff. So you're not gonna just find this stuff just walking down the street. And you're not gonna find it because people are talking about it. That's why I said I was coming here for years and I never even knew this stuff was here. It wasn't because it was never mentioned. But if you pay attention to the atmosphere, it's like it kind of leads you there because they also have like blueprints of the library, like the original blueprint of the library. I'm like, they preserved a lot in this library. It's fucking, I'm like, I've never seen a library that preserved all this. I'm not saying they don't exist, but I have never seen one. So I'm like, they made sure to preserve basically like the whole entire project of building this library. From the blueprint to the finished manifestation to the ceilings, you saw I was showing you the ceilings. They put they all into it and they made sure that it will be preserved for the future generation. And that's the point I'm getting at. This was not done for them because they already knew the secrets. They already knew what the game was. The reason they did what they did was to preserve the truth for the future generations who may not know what they know, but this becomes your route back to that inner knowing. This is how you find your way back to your supreme consciousness. This is how you illuminate your torch. When you look at that serpent, the reason why they switched that out is because the serpent became more and more, you can say, sinister when people became more and more religious. So the more religious people became when you started to have churches on every block. Then when people are seeing this serpent, and then they think about the story of Adam and Eve, for example, and how the serpent is sinister, then people will begin to change their mind, and that's why they replaced. Like if you look at the torch now, I think it has like an angel. I've shown it before as well, right? I believe it's like a golden angel, like holding the torch. I believe it's like a golden angel holding the torch, but there is no serpent to be found. You just see an angel. So again, it's a heavy, like it's a catch-22, right? What I mean by a catch-22 is you have a city called the City of Angels, but this is one of the most demonic cities on the planet at the same time. So what does that tell you about what you think you know about angels? That's the point I'm getting at. Angels are not what we think they are, and Los Angeles proves that in real time. We don't have to speculate, we don't have to guess. We can use our own eyes and use our own ears. I'm like, damn, I'm in the City of Angels, but I feel like I'm amongst demons. Why is that? Why did they choose this city to call the City of Angels, and this city is filled with demons? Are they trying to play a trick on our mind? Or are they trying to help us to reach a greater truth? Because a greater truth would be that angels are not these super holy vessels that we have been taught to believe via religion. Right? Because before religion, we had a completely different understanding of angels, just like we had a completely different understanding of demons, as well as jinn, as well as elementals. Our understanding of it back then does not match our understanding now. Because again, people are more religious. People are more surface. Again, it ain't too many people that are just looking to crack the codes and decode the mysteries. That's not necessarily what's on everybody's to-do list. One last thing I wanted to mention to, just bring this all together. There was an interview that was done by Kanye West when he was being interviewed by Charlemagne the God, right? This interview was on YouTube, right? And I'm paraphrasing. This is not direct quotes, but this is basically the gist of the point. Basically, what Kanye West, or Ye, was trying to help Charlemagne understand is, like, for example, you have, so many of the youth, they want to become rappers. They feel like they have a better chance at being a rapper than being like a doctor or a lawyer or a scientist or an astrophysicist, right? Things that we say we actually need. We need more of this. We need more of that, right? But there's a reason why those type of fields are not attractive to the youth. The reason why those particular fields are not attractive to the youth is because, for example, they say it's a pipe dream to basically, become a star, to become a rapper, to become a singer, to basically follow your dreams, right? For you to follow your dreams, that's basically damn near impossible. You're basically trying to do the impossible. That's what they want us to believe, right? We're trying to accomplish the impossible. So it would be better for you to go to college, get a degree, so that you can have a foundation and that you can have security, you know, well-paying job, very secure, right? This is what we're told, right? Don't follow your heart, don't follow your dreams because that's too abstract. So it would be better for you to, stay on the ground level and lay your foundation, right? That's what we always hear, especially from the elders, right? Especially from the elders. Because again, they say we need more youth doing more things. We need to be more vast in our thinking, which I don't disagree with. But the reason, again, because I was speaking about the Kanye West interview, the reason why this was significant to me, or this is basically what stands out to me, I only watched the interview one time, so this isn't something that I just watched over and over again. I literally only watched it one time. That's why I'm kind of paraphrasing. But this is essentially what stood out to me in the midst of the interview. The point that Kanye West was trying to make is you actually have a better chance of being the next Travis Scott or the next Rihanna, whatever name or titles you want to put on there, right? There's a better chance of you being the next big star than being the next, you could say, astrophysicist, or the next top scientist, or the next top of anything, the top doctor. Yeah, you can be a doctor, but that doesn't mean you're going to be the best. You can be an astrophysicist, doesn't mean you're going to be the best. But if you have in your heart that you are the best at what you do, because you damn sure may be the best at what you do, your particular niche, your particular style, you may very well be the best of that, and you feel like you can do it better than everybody else because of your artistry. But when we remove the artistry and we make it strictly science and we make it strictly mathematics, because science and art must be merged together. In modern times, we separate it. That's why you have artists, then you have scientists. They're not the same. But originally they were the same. That's why they call them alchemists. Because an alchemist doesn't just understand science and mathematics, but they also understand artistry. That's why they were able to create beautiful weaponry, shields, lead to gold. They was able to do all these amazing things because it wasn't just strictly logical. It had a touch of artistry as well. Because we learned all of those things at the same time. It wasn't separated. So you will be learning science, art, mathematics, so on and so forth, all at the same time because all of these things are a part of art. What's up, back from hiatus, peace God. All right? So that's what it is. The science and the art should not be separated. So you having the desire to be an artist of any type, any fashion, just someone who is expressing their creativity, and you do that well, that's really actually what you should be doing because you have a greater chance at excelling, doing what you do best. What's up, Dank Wizard? Salute to you. You have a greater chance at being the best you can be at your particular artistry than just trying to fit into the world, trying to have security through a good paying job. There's a higher probability of you being the next big star than you being, again, the next big scientist or the next big astrophysicist. because those worlds are so tainted with modernism that a person like you or a person like me will not even be allowed to rise to the heights because of politics. Once you have an idea that is contrary to the mainstream, they're not going to put you on the world stage for you to express that, for you to open up the minds. It's too regulated for somebody with an open mind to excel in. So that's why you have a better chance of being exactly who you are, because your mind is already open and you're helping others to expand their minds as well, which you see you're already doing that just by being who and what you are. Instead of you feeling like you have to take a completely different path, just to guarantee some financial security or whatever security you may be trying to preserve. Now, you can say that makes logical sense, but it doesn't make artistic sense. And when you have one positive and one negative, what is the result? A negative. That's mathematics proves it already. One positive, one negative is going to give you a negative. You have logic without artistry, it's going to give you a negative. You're not going to get a positive attribute from doing that. Not when you are naturally inclined to be an artist. So I'm not speaking about the people that are naturally inclined to be accountants, to be, you can say, business owners, the people who are business minded. If you're naturally inclined to be that way, then be that way. But for the people who are not inclined to move in those fields and to go in that direction, you may not give a fuck about science, but you just want to be a scientist because it pays well and because you were pushed in that direction by your family. So you just did what you felt you had to do, not because it was actually in your heart. There's many people in that situation. It was through pressure that they did what they did. It wasn't because it was actually in their heart. You could say they were naturally artists, but they were convinced that they had to go in a different direction. So that's an artist that the world would never get a chance to, I'm not going to say meet, but to tap into, you can say. That's what we do now. We tap into each other, each other's energy, each other's currency. Because that's worth more than money. Your currency, which is your energy, is worth more than money. It's because your currency or your energy generates the money. So your currency is worth more than the money because without your energy, there is no money. All right? So how would you be able to generate it without energy? Right? Give me a second. There's a whole group of motherfuckers just popped out on me. Look at that. It's a whole group of motherfuckers. Anyway. See, I'm getting kind of hot. I tell you, I'll be doing these videos. My Kundalini be activated. You see, I'm damn near sweating out this bitch. Kundalini is activated, just speaking about this type of stuff. So, that's just the point I'm making. So when we look at stuff like this is more than science and mathematics. This also took an artist. This is also artistic. And if you see up there, you see the bull. I believe that's like the golden calf up there. So I'm just showing you one last time. You see all of the ancient civilizations here, ending with the pyramids. And you see there's still space. So it's not saying that the pyramids was the last, but you could say it was the last of the great civilizations. The last great civilization was Egypt. All right. So as we see, they're showing you all of the great civilizations, the civilizations that require study, because all of these contain the secrets. As we know, so many people are into the Hinduism, right? So many people are into the mantra. So many people are into Kundalini. That's all Eastern science. That's why it's up there. Then we know with the Egyptian currency, we know how heavy that influence is. Whether we're talking about the influence of the Lima or the influence of like the conscious community in the late 80s, right? Everybody all of a sudden gathered the interest of Egypt basically in the 20th century, right? With the discovery of King Tut, the digging out the Sphinx. There was a lot going on in the 20th century, right? To make people interested again in Egypt, because again, before the Rosetta Stone, we couldn't even decode the hieroglyphs. It wasn't until we discovered the Rosetta Stone that we could even decode the hieroglyphs. And the Rosetta Stone was discovered in 1799. So we really only had access to this information in the last 200 years. That's also for the Hinduism, because Hinduism came to California, this place right here, 200 years ago. So when we ask the question like, why is California, why are the people like so, spiritual or spiritually minded? Why do we know like the people of Cali have a certain type of energy. You know what I mean? Like even me, like I came healthy here. When I came here, I began to eat more healthy. I became spiritual here. My spiritual journey was activated here, on these lands. So why is that? What is that? What is in the atmosphere that causes these things to awaken? Is it a particular deity? Is it a ruler? Is it a spirit? We can decipher the hieroglyphs. Do a stele video then. Well, yes, because of the discovery of the Rosetta Stone, we are able to do it. So in this day and age, yes, we can decode the hieroglyphs, but we've only had access to it the last 200 years. And that's why I was saying, just like Hinduism, Hinduism has been in California for 200 years. Hinduism actually came to California first. That's the significance of it. Meaning Hinduism hit America and California first. So the first people to be introduced into Hinduism in America was the California people. And every time I come here, I'm always impressed with the people of California. I'm like, these people are different than any other people in the world, not just America, any other people in the world. Like these motherfuckers in California, everybody from the people sleeping in the streets all the way up to the high rises. This is a different type of monster. I'm not even gonna call this shit a spirit. This is like a fucking monster. If you've been in California, you know that this is some monstrous shit. These are monsters. And I'm not saying like a ghoul, a goblin. I'm saying that like these are, you can say like, they're like bullies, right? These are the bullies of the world. The bullies of the world, that's why, Silicon Valley, right? Like the Elon Musk of the world, all that's all California energy. The Mark Zuckerbergs, right? All this social media and all that. Basically, you could say the foundation of the modern society is in California. The whole the technological industry was really built in, again, Silicon Valley, California. Even the iPhones that we use, they're assembled in California. So if you're walking around with an iPhone, it was assembled. It wasn't created, it wasn't manufactured. It was manufactured in China, but it was assembled in California, right? So California plays a large role in where we are in modern times. You can say California, it also plays a role why the world is as spiritual as it is, especially 2012 and beyond. California has a large part to play in that. That's because of the 200 years of Hinduism. You just have some very intelligent people here, right? We have some very intelligent people that have secrets that other people simply don't have access to because, again, they have had access to it for hundreds of years. Versus if you go somewhere else, they may only have 100 years. They may only have 50 years. They may only have 20 years. They may not even care about it. Like if you go into the South, the South is still considered a Bible Belt. They're still, in the Bible, right? So they still haven't even touched this shit. So there's particular places in the country that still ain't even touched Hinduism. They ain't talking about no Kundalini. They're not doing no mantras. They're not doing no yoga. There's certain parts of the country that ain't even hit yet. Or they're just not drawn to it. That's also another thing, right? They just may not even be drawn to it just because of the location that they're in, right? So I'm just giving you the historical references because it has a lot to do with who I am as well, right? So it's not just me speaking objectively. This is also me speaking subjectively. Because when I reflect on it all, I'm like, oh, I see why I am the way I am when I fully comprehend the energy of California, the energy of the city of angels, the energy of the demons, the monsters, or you can say the real angels. That's basically what I'm getting at. California, or mainly Los Angeles, show you what a real angel is. Take out the religious connotation, take out the religious history. If you truly want to know what a real angel is, California. Look around. You are amongst angels. I had to come to the realization, I'm like, damn, I'm thinking all these people are demons, but it's not that they're demons, that's just how we would define it. But that's not necessarily what it is. That's just the original manifestation of angels. As we know, that's why you have like angels of death. A demon doesn't kill you, an angel does. Meaning angels do a lot of dirty work. That's what I'm getting at. It's really the angels that do the heavy lifting and the dirty work. So when we think about California and you consider everything I just said with the Silicon Valley, with the social media, with the technology, with the Hinduism and all that, this is all doing the dirty work. You can say the dirty work is performed here in California. Just on my way here, I saw construction workers, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, getting it in. Right? No coat. They just in there. They're just in their mode. They are the laborers, right? Because California, the ley line of Saturn runs through California. Just to fully bring this home, I'm just trying to put as many pieces as I can, as quickly as I can. We know we have ley lines which connect to planetary energies. The planetary energy that runs through the ley lines of California is connected to Saturn. So it's no coincidence that California has portals to hell. But hell doesn't necessarily release the demons. It releases the angels. Why? Because every demon was an angel first. If we go back to the story of Lucifer being able to convince half of heaven that he is the supreme Lord. And that's when they got cast out of heaven. So every demon was originally an angel. That's the point I'm making here. So when we look around and we see all these demons and we see all this demonic activity, that doesn't make them non-angels. They're just older angels. You can say the demons are the elder angels. They're still angels though. So even though we call them demons, that doesn't take away their angelic nature because they are angels by nature still. They just occupy a different space. That's what Los Angeles is. That's what you see when you're here. This is a very primitive place. What I mean by primitive is there are over 100,000 homeless people in California, the state of California by itself. Most states only have like 10,000 homeless people. So when you go to California, it's times 10. There's a reason for that. Now, most people would think, it's just the drugs, it's just the lifestyle, it's the gangs, it's this, it's that. I say it's the spirituality. The reason why people prefer, you could say, to live out on the streets and basically just be their own individual and not be a part of the system and not be a part of corporations. The reason why they have that mentality is due to the 200 years of spirituality. Because as we see, like you go back to 2012, was this not the same conversations that were being had at the time? Were people not seeking independence? Were people not seeking revolt? Were people not trying to overturn the entire government, the entire system? That's why we essentially integrated with this spiritual lingo in the first place, right? It's to create some type of change within self. The change from angel to demon, the core nature is the same, it's just a different expression. That's all. The core nature is the same, meaning they have divine duties. Just like the angel of death has to deliver those bodies, or you could say those souls, rather. The body dies. So the angel of death has to deliver those souls. So they do the dirty work. The angels do the dirty work. So when we call them demons, they do the dirtier work. That's basically what it is. The demons do the even dirtier work, as we call street justice. You have like court justice, then you have street justice. When people take power into their own hands, that's street justice, right? That's people, you can say, more so on demon time. People on demon time, they want things done by their own hands. They're not about to call any cops. They're not calling anybody to help. Whatever problems they have, they want to handle it themselves. They're like, how am I a man and I'm going to call another man to handle my issues when I can handle it myself? That's just the mentality. I'm not here to say whether it's right or wrong. I'm just making observations. So this is why the people of California are the way they are. It's the culture. It's 200 years of spirituality. And then the rest of the world caught on in basically 2012. That's what I'm saying. The rest of the world caught on in 2012. But California's been on that wave. How do I know? Because I was here. I was in California before 2012, before people was even into all this stuff. I was already here. And the spirituality was already in the atmosphere. So before I even knew about anybody talking about anything 2012 and it's the end of the world, before that information was even a thing, I was getting and receiving these downloads in the streets of California already, before that even became a thing. So this is how I know this is just in the atmosphere already. And then the rest of the world caught up to it. So now everybody's spiritual. But prior to 2012, you can say that was really a California thing. That's what you can say what made the California people unique. They have more of a spiritual flow to them. Because again, they have hundreds of years of Hinduism. So that means eventually you have people that have mastered these sciences. You have masters of Hinduism walking around this bitch. It's literally masters walking around and you wouldn't even know. See, that's the thing about California. It's like you really don't even know who's who. Because we know, the celebrities be all over the place, right? But you have, like A-list celebrities. You have B-list, C-list, D-list, right? You have lists, right? And all these people walk shoulder to shoulder with each other. You wouldn't even know. Because it's like everybody has like a star power about themselves. That's why Nipsey Hussle called it the marathon. When you come here, you feel like you're in the marathon. It's like never ending. That's just the energy of LA. So when you hear people make music about the city or make music about the culture, it's coming from a potential. It's coming from something authentic. It may not be tangible. It may not be something that you can point at, but it is no less real than what you actually could point at. The culture is no less real than something that you could actually point your finger at, right? So I think y'all get my point. I just wanted to tap in real quick. I said real quick, and we've been here for a fucking hour, all right? Again, as you see, This is that old ancient masonry, all right? People don't even know how to do shit like this no more, all right? But I just want to give my personal perspective, subjectively, but also make it objective, all right? Because every city has secrets. I'm just revealing the secrets of my city. But there are secrets that are yet to be revealed in your city, right? You must decode your city like you decode the hieroglyphs. So the same way you would want to decode hieroglyphs, every city is a hieroglyph. Every person is a hieroglyph. You are a walking hieroglyph. You are a walking symbolic code with many layers, right? This is who and what we are. So these truths have been preserved. They're just in hidden and mysterious places that you may not see unless you are led to it. Like I said, I didn't even know none of this stuff was here. I was led to it. I just so happened to walk up here one day and my mind was blown. I'm like, damn, this has been here the whole time. I've never even, so it ain't like somebody told me. One day I'm like, fuck, let me just go up these escalators. That's why when I originally did the video, I didn't even know if I was able to fume here. That's why like I was like doing it on a sneak tip. I did it on a sneak tip because I wasn't sure if you could even record this. That's just how out of the loop I was. I'm like, I don't even know if you can even record, but I'm about to do it anyway. So that's what I did. Like I did this shit anyway. So I didn't even know if you was allowed to record, but I did it any goddamn way. That's just what it was, right? Because I'm like, I want the people to see what I see, and then you can come to your own perspective. Because if I'm able to see this in my city, I know you can see it in your city. I know you can make discoveries in your city that you had you probably lived in your city your whole life, and there's discoveries that you had no idea about. The same thing with me. I'm like, I've been living here for this long and I knew nothing about this stuff. No, because they're not going to tell you. They don't want you to know. Again, they don't want you to decode in that Greek to come into a higher consciousness, because that's what changes things. Change happens when you change your consciousness, right? So 2012 caused a shift of consciousness. The world became spiritual. The world became acquainted with Eastern metaphysics. So we was already acquainted with Western metaphysics, but the world became acquainted with Eastern metaphysics, as we call Hinduism, right? Shaktiism, Shivaism, the tantric sciences. That's all from the East. How to have sex to cause yourself to become enlightened, not just for an orgasm. That's Eastern metaphysics. So again, if you put all that into a pot, like, oh, that's why the porn industry was started in California. They was on tantric time. I've heard certain porn stars do interviews, and they said it was times where they did 5 scenes a day. 5 scenes a day. Most motherfuckers are just fine with 1 scene. You have people doing up to 5 scenes every single day. Here. All right? There's a reason for that. I'm just giving you the reasons. Because if they're on tantric time, now they have access to the fullness of their kundalini. Now they can use their tantric energy to reach enlightenment, which is what they did. They were able to liberate themselves financially, right? The ones who did it properly, the ones who were business oriented but also was artistic, they were able to liberate themselves strictly off of their tantric energy, strictly off of their kundalini, strictly off of their Hinduism, their Eastern metaphysics. So all 2012 did was show us that we must acquaint ourselves with the Eastern metaphysics, not to negate the Western metaphysics, but to combine them and be original. Meaning we're not supposed to be walking around here like monks and yogis, right? That's not what we're supposed to be doing. We must make it our own. So even though you are acquainted with the Eastern metaphysics, you must make it your own. And when you make it your own, it becomes unique, it becomes original, it becomes something the world has never seen before, hence California. That's exactly what California did, right? They combined the Western occultism, AKA the Satanism, the science of the devil. They combined that with the Eastern, the science of Shiva and Shakti, the tantric nature. So that's why there's parallels between those worlds. Right? So when we speak about things like sex magic, where do you think that comes from? You could say that's Western, because in the Eastern they call it Tantra. But over here we call it sex magic. But you see, it's the same concept though. It's just a different wording. The average person may not know what Tantra is, but they're going to know what that is. Right? Because it's already here. It's already, the game has already been laid down. It's just for us to discover the jewels. It's like the seeds have already been planted. The jewels are already in the earth. We must discover them now. And that's what we're doing. That's what I've been doing. I know that's what you're doing. We're just rediscovering what has been laid down by the ancestors. They left it for us in the first place. We're doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing. Again, they didn't do it for them. They did it for us. So just think how deeply you have to think to prepare a future generation to lose their consciousness, because they knew it already. It was predicted that we would lose our sense of divinity. Hence, angels becoming demons. That was already predicted. And because it was predicted, that's why they literally did all that they could to make sure that the sciences are preserved. That wasn't the goal. Meaning, if they were just thinking about themselves, right, they would have just lived it out. Preserving the culture wasn't for them, because they were living the culture. So they didn't have to put it in monuments. They didn't have to put it in books. They were the living examples of the culture. They began to put it in books and preserve it for us so that we can get back to the root, so that we can also live it like they lived it. But in order for us to get to that level, we must reacquaint ourselves with the Kundalini so that we can recalibrate the DNA. So you can say we are demons until we activate the angel within, as we call the holy guardian angel in Thelema. That's why it's called a holy guardian angel, not a holy guardian demon. It's called an angel, which is, you can say, your true self. But we must master demon time. That's the catch-22. Yes, you're an angel, but you must master demon time because you're on planet Earth. You're in the land of the shadows. So you must master your shadow to even perceive your divine light. You can't even perceive your divine light if you don't master your shadow. That's why you must acquaint yourself with the demonic and the jinns and all these characters, to learn who you are, not to just become a wicked person. You must explore the contents of your own shadow to unlock your own magical potential. Your magical potential is in your shadow. It's in the darkness. It's in the parts of you that you find distasteful. That's why I keep reiterating this. You are not imperfect because you are flawed. Your flaw is what makes you perfect. It's because you have a shadow that you're perfect. Because people may think, well, if I were just strictly angelic, I would be perfect. No, what makes you perfect is you are an angel and demon, or angel and jinn. You are both. The scales of Libra, the scales of Mayat, you are both. That's what makes you perfect. That the fact that you can tap into angel time and demon time, not one or the other. Because again, that's religious. It's us versus them. That's not how the occult works. There is no us versus them. We are all one. In the occult, we are all one. So you can be over here doing angelic magic, and I'm over here doing jinn magic, and we find a way to merge these arts instead of keeping them separate like we've been trained to do. Again, how many people do you even know doing anything like that? They're either doing one or the other. They're not combining the angels with the demons and creating something magical and unique. Because how can you do that if you're still afraid of your own shadow? If you feel like your shadow is what flaws you instead of what completes you. You see how that works? If you're thinking your shadow flaws you, then why would you want to integrate with your shadow? Because you feel like that's taken away from who and what you are. But when you look at your shadow as what completes you, that actually makes you who and what you are, then you will have an easier time comprehending the purpose of why shadow alchemy is necessary. I don't even want to call it shadow work. Shadow alchemy, that's an authentic term, shadow alchemy, because we are alchemists. Shadow alchemists, working in the shadow realm. That's what it means to be infamous. That's why I say you can be walking shoulder to shoulder with a star and not even know it, because they're infamous. Every star is not famous. Some stars are infamous. That's why you have stars like Owl Glow. Owl Glow is another name for Lilith, which is the wickedest star in the heavens. The wickedest star in the heavens is Lilith, AKA Owl Glow. So that lets you know, even the stars, some of their natures are agreeable, but some of their natures is not agreeable. So if you have this same scenario happening in the stars above us, all of the stars are not holy and just love and light. Some of these stars is about war and bloodshed, right? Some of these stars need blood to spill. So that's why, depending on where you are located on this planet, your particular city is being influenced by particular constellations. That's why certain cities are more dangerous than other cities. You can go to some cities and it's like no crime happens. Then you go to another city, crime is happening all day, every day. What's the difference between that city and that city? It's probably the star constellations. It's probably that spirit that rules the city, that requires a certain type of energy. Certain spirits require bloodshed. So blood will be spilled to preserve the energy. So when we look at places like, let's just say, Chicago, when we look at places like Baltimore, when we look at places like Detroit, right? These places that we consider hellish, because like people just doing with it, just any fucking thing, right? Just demon time all day, 24/7. But then you got places like Sedona, Arizona, and they don't even have traffic lights there. Like when I went to Sedona, I didn't see one traffic light because there's only 10,000 people there. That's a city with 10,000 people, to the point where they don't even need traffic lights. You turn on your TV, they're speaking about astrology. Wait, is that okay. They're speaking about astrology. I remember I was in Sedona, I turned on the TV, they're talking about Egyptian deities and all type of shit. Again, this is how I have revelations. Like, this shit is fucking crazy as fuck to me. When this shit be happening, this is what happened. I'm in Sedona, then the what do we call it? Like the desk worker, right? It was a woman working at the front desk, and she basically wrote down a number. She's like, yo, if you need anything, call that number. And for whatever reason, the number had got flipped upside down. So when I look at the number, it flipped upside down, it looks like Set, like the word Set, like the Egyptian god Set. So as I'm looking at that, I'm like, damn, that looks like Set. Just how it was written, when you reverse it, I'm like, damn, that looks like Set. Right as I make that discovery, Set is on the fucking TV, and they're just zooming in on it. So I look up at the TV, they're showing Egyptian gods. Out of any fucking gods, they're showing Egyptian gods at that particular moment, and it was the hour of Saturn. It was the hour of Saturn. I see the word Set, and on TV, they're showing the Egyptian god and zooming in on it. So it ain't, right? What's up, Aya? I love Sedona. That's what I'm saying. A lot of people don't even know about Sedona. They don't even know how that energy is. The cell phones don't even be working half the time. Like, that's a mountain time, right? When you're in Sedona, you're on mountain time. That's a whole different consciousness, whole different type of people. So that's why it's important for us to learn the different consciousness based on the time zones and based on the locations, because you realize, like, damn, this world is not what I thought it is. It's really based on location and time zone. Your location and your time zone is what determines your experience. More so than shit just being fucked up and the government is corrupt and all that. We can use those excuses, but it's really about the location and the time zone. Because if you understand the location and you understand the time zone, you can comprehend the consciousness that is active and what that consciousness needs and how you can integrate with that consciousness so that you can do exactly what you came here to do. I'm just saying these things to say we must always remember that these energies are living. These are not stagnant, dead energies. So whenever we're talking about planets, whenever we're talking about constellations and stars, these energies are alive and they have an effect on our psyche. They are living beings that change and they are moving. They're not still, they're moving. So they are living. Anything that vibrates is alive. That's a universal law, the law of vibration. Everything is living. So again, whether we're talking about spirits, stars, deities, all of these things are living. That's why any of this shit even works. This is why you can do a spell or a ritual and it works, because you're working with living energies. You're not working with dead energies. These energies are alive. And you see, you can actually reach out and communicate and they reach back out to you. How can something do that if it's not alive? And then it answers your direct questions and what you're trying to discover directly. You get direct revelations. So it ain't just something just abstract or something that could have been said to anybody. You like shit is said to you directly. Either said, depending on what clair you got activated. If you're clairvoyant, you may see. If you're clairaudient, you may hear. If you're clairsentient, you may feel. So it just depends on, which of your six senses are activated or you're more in tune to. That's how it would make sense to you. So that's why you must develop your clairs, because that's how the spirit will communicate to you. So once you have came to the realization of what clair works for you, then you know how you need to approach spirituality. So if you hear voices, then you know, okay, my goal is to hear certain voices and have conversations with certain energies, because this is how they communicate to me. If you are able to visualize, and then you will see exactly who they are. So basically, it doesn't matter what clair you use, you can come to these same conclusions, right? So I'm just giving you a perspective, all right? Just giving you a perspective. Everything that you're not supposed to know, that should be what you strive to discover. Your own shadow, utilizing shadow alchemy, because you are a shadow magician, because you work within the dark to bring forth light. And you understand some labor is dirty. Some jobs are dirty. Some jobs you're not going to be able to stay clean or clean of sin. That's what I'm saying. Some jobs require you to sin. That's basically what a demon is, right? A demon is a sinner. But that's necessary because they represent the first creation. Remember, you had the Kabbalah, you had the clip-off, or the tree of life and the tree of death. The tree of death was created first. So even though everybody is all about love and light, Kabbalah, the clip-off is the first creation. That was considered a mistake. So you can say God created, but the first time he fucked up. But they're not going to tell you that in the Bible. They're not going to tell you that in religious books, but they tell you that when you study the Kabbalah, like the first creation was a mistake. So that's why you have all these demons, these ghouls, these goblins, these vampires. All of them come from the first creation, even Lilith. So when we speak about Lilith and the creation of Lilith and Adam, that's all from the first creation. Then you have the second creation, which is the tree of life, AKA Eve. That's where Eve come in. Eve comes from the second creation. Adam and Lilith come from the first creation. That's also why they sinned, if you comprehend what I'm saying here. So when we read the story, like they end up sinning, eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which they was not supposed to do. The reason why they did that is because they came from the first creation, which, according to the story, was flawed. So what it's really saying is, they were doomed to fail from the start. Adam and Lilith were doomed to fail because they're from the first creation. That's why they didn't get along. Then when Adam and Eve connected, they sinned and got kicked out of the garden. So why is all this fucked up shit happening? Why does Lilith go into the first creation? That's basically, she returns to the first creation once she refused the sexual advances of Adam. She returns to the shadows. She returns to the clip-off and she creates her own world. So that's why when you work with the clip-off, you're gonna find Lilith there. Because they were doomed to fail. Because the first creation had a flaw in it. That's why a second creation had to take place, because after the first creation, like, damn, there's a flaw here. That flaw needs to be corrected, but you're not going to destroy the first creation. You just create over it. And that's basically what happened. It was just created over it. So that's why the clip-off still exists. The tree of death still exists. So no matter how much we want to work within the light, the dark still exists. It's still there. It's the first creation, and it's naturally flawed, which we would consider demons. You can say demons are naturally flawed. But that's just the nature of the first creation. There is a flaw inherited in it. We also come from the first creation as human beings, as spiritual beings, whatever you want to consider yourself. You also come from the first creation. That's why you're a sinner as well. That's why you have to be on demon time as well, even though you are technically an angel. Because you come from the first creation, so you must, you can say, correct the flaw that's natural, not because you're flawed, because reality is flawed. You are correcting a flawed reality as a whole. So when we walk around and we see so much mental illness with the people, and we see, again, whether it's the homelessness, the mental illness, and all of the ills, you know, the hunger, because this was designed to be a flawed place. This can never be a perfect place. We will never have world peace. We will never have it where everybody has the ability to be equal. Everybody has the ability to eat meals whenever they want to. That's never going to happen because of the natural flaw. Not because some people are evil and some people are wicked. We all are. We all have that potential. And we all exercise it to various degrees. It's just a part of the human experience. That's why I say, when you accept your shadow and you realize your flaw is what makes you perfect, because without the flaw, you would have already been perfect. And so what would there be to work towards? If you're already perfected, what are you working towards? Why live? What is the purpose of the human experience if you're already perfected? So it's because of the flaw that any of this is even possible. It's the flaw that creates all this. It puts us in a situation where we can correct the flaw in nature, which is your own psyche. So what we're calling trauma, what we're calling healing, and we need to heal our inner child, we need to deal with childhood issues, whatever excuse we use for it is called the natural flaw. So whatever we've been through, good, bad, or ugly, there's always a flaw until you correct it. And when you correct the flaw, that doesn't mean that the world will change, but your world will change. Your reality will change. Maybe not the complete reality, because everybody has to work on their own dimension. But within your chambers, within your dimensions, you can say you have a pure existence because you did the shadow alchemy. Right? Because you understand we are in a natural flaw, so this is necessary work. So you're not doing shadow work or shadow alchemy because you were hurt. as a child or somebody did something to you. You may think that's why, but that's not why we are here. Because somebody did something foolish, or somebody did something evil, or somebody did something wicked. We're here because that's just the nature of reality. It's wicked, it's evil, it's sinister. It was created that way by the same God that people worship. He just made a mistake the first time and tried to correct it the second time. But all that did is make good and evil. So instead of the tree of life correcting the tree of death, all they did was merge, and now you have good and evil, as we call God and devil. So you can say God had to create the devil. It was absolutely necessary. You can say the devil was created in the first creation, which predates everything else. That predates, you can say, the Garden of Eden. It predates the planet Earth. That's why there is no history of the creation of these things. You're not going to read the Bible, the Quran, or anything, and it talks about the first creation. That's why we have to study all these things, because it's like all these stories just only tell us bits and pieces of the full context. That's why, again, most people don't even know about Lilith. Right? Most people don't know about Lilith because it's not in the Bible. So that doesn't mean that she's not real. She just was removed because there are books that were removed from the Bible. So that's telling you right there, you're not getting the full story because certain books was removed. So you're only getting a portion of it. So you have to get that other portion from another source. And that's for any religion. They're only going to give you a part of the picture. They're not going to give you the full context. That's why you have to study all these things. Gnosticism, Sufism, Kabbalah. These are all putting the pieces together for you, but you have to utilize them together, not separately. So that's why it's not enough to call yourself a Christian or a Gnostic, a Muslim or a Sufi, a Jew or a Kabbalist. You must go beyond the labels. You must transcend all these labels. Like, I study all of it. So it ain't about me preferring this or preferring that. It is all a necessary element of alchemy. It's all necessary. The Gnosticism gives you the later day Egyptian or Kemetic teachings. Sufism gives you the teachings of the real Islam, not the religion. The way of life. Say Islam is a way of life. It became a religion, but it originally was a way of life. Gnosticism, originally a way of life. Kabbalah is a way of life. Meaning it's something that's within you. And because it's within you, you can perceive it outside of you. That's why I always reiterate that. That's why I always reiterate that these things must be done. It's not really a choice. It's not really a choice. Yes, you can be ignorant in this world, and ignorance is bliss. But because you come from the first creation, that's not enough for you. Why do you think I'm fucking here right now? And not just somewhere lounging, because it's not enough. I needed to get my ass up and make these discoveries and then share it. I wanted to make everyone a part of it this time. You see, this is what I'm doing any goddamn way, right? I'm doing this shit any damn way. But why not bring you in? Because it could potentially activate something within you to make discoveries about yourself. And that's all I'm here to do. I'm just here to awaken the Kundalini by living it out, by showing you it's a way of life and not just something that's meant to. It's also within your heart. So that's why I say you must memorize these things. And I'm going to continue to say it. You got to memorize it, because how will you notice it outside of yourself if you don't know it? If you can't identify within yourself, you can't identify it outside of yourself. So how can you identify spirits and energies and all the stuff I'm talking about if you don't know the attributes? So if I tell you, okay, this is the energy of Tepa Reef, and you don't know the attributes of Tebarif. I just said words that you don't comprehend. It doesn't do anything for you because it's not memorized. But if you already know, like, okay, that's the energy of the sun. That's the energy of beauty. Okay, so I'm like, oh yeah, we're in the world of Tebarif. Also, Tebarif is a number 6. So we may be in a vibration of a 6. So if I say, okay, we're in a vibration of Tebarif, instead of me saying we're in a vibration of the 6, I'm just using 6 as Tebarif because it's one and the same. But we're just using Hebrew versus English. We're transferring the language. The same way, like, what if I use a Greek word? The Greek word for beauty, or the Greek word for will. The Greek word for will is thelma, aka thelema. Thelema is just a Greek word for true will. So even thelema, you know, that's all, I talk about 93. That's a Greek word. So that has a Greek energy. So even though, you know, it's speaking about, you know, Egyptian things, the language still requires you to know something about the Greek alphabet. And that's what I mean. Like, the Hebrew alphabet is not enough. You also need to know that Greek, because the Greek is also utilized in astronomy. When you are charting the stars, the brightest star is called the alpha star. Then you have the beta star, right? It goes in order based off of the Greek alphabet. That's astronomy. See, astrology teaches you the Hebrew, but astronomy teaches you the Greek. And astrology and astronomy are one and the same, right? So that's what it is, you know. I think this phone is I need to charge the phone back up, right? So I need to charge the phone up. I just wanted to help people to see more. That's why I had to travel. You know, y'all be seeing me. Y'all be seeing me chilling in Vegas and shit. But it don't be enough. I have an inner urge, I'm like, fuck, I gotta go. I need to manipulate these streets, right? Because that's what I'm doing. I'm like, I'm just practicing my magic in real time. Because LA is a perfect place to do it, or at least for me. It's like 10 million people here. We got 10 million people. Every time I walk outside, it's a whole different group of people. So I'm able to utilize my mantras, my words of power, my affirmations, whatever it is that I'm doing, sigils, seals. I'm able to see the effectiveness very quickly because I can just hop on a train and I'm in a whole different atmosphere, just that quick. Something that I really can't do like that in Vegas. Like, Vegas don't have trains, right? And Vegas is not as big as California, right? So that's why I like to come here. And that's why I say my spiritual journey started here, because this is like training grounds. I call it boot camp, right? I would always call it boot camp when I was here, right? Because I always felt like I was in boot camp. I always felt like I was going through some type of training. You know, just navigating these streets and just watching me master my craft. I'm as an observer. Let me see what works. Let me see what doesn't work. It's just going to happen a lot more rapidly because of the amount of energy here. The energy, you could say, is higher. It's just way more people here. And you know, people are currency, as I was speaking about earlier. People are currency. So the more people, the more currency, which means the higher the vibration. And that's why California is called the Golden State. Because there's just a lot of motherfuckers here. It's fucking ridiculous. That's why it's called the Marathon. It's just so many people here. It's all about what you want to do with it, based on the city you're in. Like, you may be in a city where it's not that. It may only be 1 million people in your city. So you must utilize your magic in accordance to those 1 million people. So that's what I mean by you must adapt to your surroundings and become a master of your craft, whatever that craft may be. Because we are all masters. We just don't know it. You came here as a master, you just don't remember. That's why I always tell you, memorize it by heart. You remember, the more you put into your heart, the more you can remember. It's just that simple. The more you memorize, the more you remember. The more you remember, the higher the consciousness. The higher the consciousness puts you in alignment with your thelema, which is your true will. You must raise your currency. Not your money, you must raise your currency. You raise your currency by raising the Kundalini. You raise the Kundalini utilizing Tantra, or sex magic. It's the easiest way to do it, because we're all sexual beings. So let's not act like we don't have access to that energy. We just must utilize it in a sacred fashion. It can't be casual. You should not be out here doing anything casual. Your whole life should be a fucking ritual. Your whole life, if your whole life is not a ritual, it should be. Make the proper adjustments so that it is. Don't do anything casual. Don't, again, like I was telling y'all before, everything with me is strategic. I may only go to certain places at certain times based on what planetary energy is ruling at that particular time to have a certain experience. You can get it that down packed if you desire to, because that's the only way you're going to see the reality of these things. Damn, the hour of Saturn, I see this. Damn, every time it's an hour of Saturn, I see this. You got to make those discoveries for yourself. 93 Cam. You must make those discoveries for yourself. What happens, or what patterns or sequences come up at certain times so that you know the reality, because again, these are living energies. So if Saturn is living, that means the hour of Saturn or even the day of Saturn has certain patterns, has certain things that you notice, like, oh shit, that's Saturn, right? But you have to perceive it. And you have to know, like, oh shit, I'm dealing with the energy of Saturn. Well, if you don't even know the attributes of Saturn, how would you recognize Saturn objectively if you don't even know the attributes? You see what I mean? The occult is, the foundation of the occult requires you to know these things by heart so that you can see them and live them out objectively, because these are living things. This is not a 2D world, this is a 3D world. Meaning if you cannot prove your occultism in 3D, it's not real. So the same way we can say, okay, yeah, that's an Aries, because that person fits the attributes of the Aries, that's you proving it objectively. You can objectively see the energy of Aries. You can objectively see the energy of the sun, because you know the attributes. So when you see certain sequences of attributes and certain patterns, you know, oh, those are the patterns of Saturn. Those are the patterns of Aquarius. Those are the patterns of Aries. Those are the patterns of Tabarif. Those are the patterns of Chokmah. Those are the patterns of Malkuth. Those are the qualities of the 13th path. Those are the qualities of the 27th path. Those are the qualities of the 32nd path. Because you know all this already. So when you see it, you're like, oh shit, there it is. Now I see it in 3D. I see it in 2D on that paper. But once I memorize that paper, I ball that paper up and I look for it in real time now. The only reason you use a paper is to memorize. Once you memorize it, you ball the paper up, you burn it up, and then you look for it in real time. And when you make that discovery, then you know, like, oh shit, this is more than what I thought it was. Because it always was. It was never something simple. It becomes simpler the more you memorize. That's why a lot of people find this stuff hard, because it seems overwhelming, but that's just at first. The more you memorize, the easier it gets. Like, this stuff is not getting harder for me. I've been doing this shit like over a decade now. Shit ain't getting harder. Shit is getting easier. I'm just having fun now. I can actually enjoy my life. I'm not fucking just thinking about, again, just how fucked up I am and how much just traumatic shit I went through. I don't even have to comprehend these things. I'm looking at how to master my craft. I'm not thinking about trauma, not thinking about clearing out karma. It's about mastering the shadow alchemist. That's where everything makes sense. Influencing or engaging with the clip off. Right? Not because you're this dark, sinister person, but because you actually are exactly who you think you are, which is angelic. But you're on demon time because you're on planet Earth. So you must master the demons to even perceive your angelic nature, AKA the holy guardian angel. So with that, I bear peace. 93. Love is the law, love under will.